Let's kick it.
Hey everyone, it's Ereena George and I'm kicking it with Doree.
Welcome to the Kicking It with Doree show. I'm your host, Ereena Nieves. And right now we're here talking to Ereena George, who is a health educator and a child advocate. And she's going to talk to us about her journey and what she's gone through with some health issues and how she was able to correct those issues naturally, which I think basically women everywhere will be able to identify with. Ereena, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad that you're here, and I know that you do a lot of speaking and educating for people who don't really understand really what's going on with their own bodies, especially us as women. You know, sometimes we're afraid to go to the doctor for certain things, or something is itching or not feeling quite right, and we just assume that we can just grab a box off the shelf at CVS and fix it without really understanding what's going on and really without paying attention to those regular and natural symptoms that our body is trying to tell us.
Absolutely, absolutely. As women, we do it all of the time. I know there was a time that I did it as well. Because I started on this journey very early, I didn't have a long time that I did it, but I can definitely understand that women do it because, you know, we don't want to hear bad news, and we think that sometimes we can fix things on our own when we really need to do something a little bit more drastic. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, or even like, you know, I know males do this a lot too. They're like, oh, you know, it's no big deal. You know, you just push on. You got to keep going. You got a lot of responsibilities. We got our families and our careers and things. So we just try to put it off. But, you know, really as women and as wives and as moms, if we are not well and we don't take care of ourselves, then all that other stuff that I just mentioned is going to go downhill because we have to be good first. And I think that it is wise for us to, you know, sometimes put ourselves first and listen to our bodies.
Absolutely. And there's no such thing as putting your health on the back burner. Your health should always be the first thing that you make sure that you fix and that you level out. Because as you stated, as a mom, as a wife, you know, as a entrepreneur, as someone, you know, who has that 9 to 5, you always have to make sure that you are in tip-top shape. So you always have to put your health first and figure out different ways that you can kind of keep your health optimal.
Mm-hmm. Now, talk to us a little bit about the journey you went on. Like, what happened that, you know, went wrong where you started noticing something wasn't right? And, you know, talking about that process going from being unsure and not knowing what to do or maybe second guessing it, and then where you are now.
Sure. So the process for me started at a fairly young age. I would say I was about 18 when I started missing my menses. And then it completely left. Completely. It was gone for 2 years. And at 18, you're like, yeah, there may be an issue here, but I didn't like it that much anyway, so I'm not really bothered that it's gone. But it got to a point where I wanted to figure out why it was gone. So some of the things that I noticed with myself that was going on around that time is that I started gaining weight. My sex drive started increasing really heavy, and I started growing hair, like facial hair. And I was going to a chiropractor at the time, and the chiropractor said to me, maybe you should get your pituitary gland tested. So I went to my OBGYN and I advised him as to what was going on. And I asked him to test my pituitary gland. And I'm like, something's not right. Like, something is just not right. At the time, he just had me on birth control, and the birth control was not bringing back my menses. It wasn't doing anything. So when he did the test on my pituitary gland, it came back that I had about 4 times the testosterone in my system that a woman should have. And then I was diagnosed with PCOS, also known as polycystic ovarian syndrome. Now that I know all these years later, I think polycystic ovarian syndrome is just something that doctors diagnose women with when they don't know what else to say. So, so he put me on birth control, and I took the birth control, and he said, oh, you're going to take the birth control, your menses is going to come back. Well, it didn't come back. And after about 2 different types of birth control, I asked him to see someone else. So he sent me to an infertility specialist. Infertility specialist put me on birth control. Did that for a little while. I asked to see someone else. To see, I'm not like, I don't like to be a test dummy. So you can only do maybe one or two things to me. And then I'm like, no, I need to see someone above you. I need to see someone else. So after 6 specialists, I get to the last specialist. Last specialist was prescribing a different type of birth control for me. I said, no, you have to do something else. There's something else that you have to do. And he said, the only thing that I can do is a laparoscopy. I can go in and see what's going on. We can do that. And I'm like, whatever, let's just go ahead and do it. By that time, I probably was about maybe 20 and maybe 20, 21. And so we did the laparoscopy, and I'll never forget hearing the doctor say, he's like, your insides are just swollen, like they're swollen like sausages.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, so we finally see what's wrong. Now he's going to be able to tell me what I need to do to fix it. Now, prior to this, I'm going to be honest with you, growing up, I never wanted to have children because I had younger siblings and I was always babysitting them. I was always watching them. So I didn't have that goal to be a mother. But once I had the laparoscopy done and the final result from that specialist, and I put that in quotation marks, was you have unexplained infertility. And I just said, so after all of the birth control, after the laparoscopy, after everything that we've done and I've gone through for the past year and a half, 2 years, you guys still have no answer for me. And he was like, yeah, you're just going to be unable to have kids. I remember leaving the office, going to the bus stop because this doctor wasn't in my neighborhood. It was far and I wasn't driving. And I remember standing at the bus stop crying, thinking to myself, like, I'm never going to the doctor again. I'm never going to see another doctor because they don't know what they're talking about. And after all this that they put me through, they still don't have answers. So that really was the beginning of why I decided to do something else. And to be quite honest, it took me a little while to do something else. I didn't go immediately into herbal medicine. It took me a little while. I kind of felt defeated where I said, okay, well, if I can't have kids, I just can't have kids. And that's what it was. But again, I was young. And it wasn't until a few months later that I decided, well, maybe I want to have kids. And maybe I should try to figure out what to do about this. And that's really, really where my journey began.
Wow. That's deep. And I understand, even though I didn't go through that exact thing that you mentioned, I understand your frustration getting passed from person to person and they're saying the same thing. It's like, really? Like, my time is valuable. If don't pretend to know if you don't know. And I think it's important that everyone listening understand that doctors are still human and they don't have all the answers, and that someone that is informed will let you know if they're uninformed, basically. You could be your own advocate and you could speak up for yourself. Like you said, Ereena, you're not a test dummy. You're not a lab rat or something. So very important for you to speak up when you feel like something is wrong, or if they're telling you that they can't find anything, they did the test, they say, oh, they can't find anything, and they just want to give you that blanket, vanilla solution to challenge it because you know what you used to feel like before whatever issue came on. Now, what have you started doing, Ereena, that has changed the way that you function and how you feel and getting your periods back?
So what I did was I started going to see an herbalist. There was an herbalist in my neighborhood that everyone knew about. My eldest sister mentioned her to me some time before. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, whatever. I'll go to see her whenever I get the opportunity. And after, going through everything with the doctors, it took me a few months, but I decided to, and she literally was about 10 minutes from my house walking. She was very close. So I decided to go to her store one day. And I went into the store and I said to her, I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on with me. I'm not getting my period. I was told that I had unexplained infertility and I need to fix this. Like, I don't know what's going on. So she just looks at me and her first question was, well, what is your diet? What do you eat? And I'm thinking to myself, I can't believe this lady is asking me what I eat. Like, I'm telling her something's wrong with me. I need to fix it. And she's asking me, what do I eat? So at that time, I had already stopped eating red meat for some time. And I was just eating chicken, turkey, and fish. And I told her, I said, I eat chicken, turkey, and fish. I do eat dairy. And she said to me, whenever you're ready, stop eating the chicken and the turkey and the dairy. And I just looked at her because growing up, I grew up in a Hispanic household. We had meat at every meal. It was mostly pork. I mean, I grew up in an environment where we ate meat with every single meal. So it was very foreign to me to actually have someone say to stop eating everything. In my mind, that's what it was. I'm not going to have anything to eat. What am I going to eat? So I said, okay. I was like, whatever. And it took me a few months, but that was probably like fall. The following January, I decided to go ahead and stop eating the chicken, turkey, and the dairy. I still ate fish, but I stopped eating chicken and turkey and dairy. And by that March, my period had come back as if it had never left. I dropped about between 35 and 45 pounds. And I could not believe it. It was a situation where I was in awe that this one particular thing that I was doing, the lifestyle that I had of eating, was what was affecting me hormonally. So I went back to her and I said to her, when I walked in, she was like, wow, you look great. And I said to her, I'm like, I can't believe this. How does this work? And I'll never forget this. And this was almost 18 years ago, but I still see her to this day. She said to me that they take a baby chicken to an adult in 9 days. Now, that was 18 years ago. They probably do it faster nowadays. But she said everything that they're injecting in them is hormones. So if you're only ingesting this chicken that is filled with hormones, at some point it's going to completely throw your natural hormonal system off. And that is what was happening to you. And from then on, I was a believer. So once I stopped eating the dairy and the chicken and the turkey, I started using her products. So she has like products where I used a scrub. It was a green scrub. It had all types of green veggies in it. It was dried and you can just put it in water or put it in your orange juice. And it's called internal scrub. And it just completely cleans out your intestinal tract. So I went from eating chicken and turkey to being a vegetarian to cleaning out my intestinal tract. And I never looked back.
Wow. That's really amazing that, just that one thing, changing that one thing made such a big difference in your life. And you said that was 18 years ago?
That was 18 years ago. And I have a 14-year-old daughter and an 11-year-old son.
How about that?
Absolutely.
Wow. So tell me, what are the other benefits that you've gained from switching your eating habits and your lifestyle?
Sure. So now I'm completely vegan. But throughout the 18 years, I've had my battles. Some people think that when you become a vegetarian, because I went from not eating chicken, turkey, and dairy to becoming a vegetarian. A lot of people think when you become a vegetarian, you hit the jackpot. But there is a such thing as an unhealthy vegetarian. And I've had my battles with that. So, there are years where my weight was stable. There are years where my weight was unstable because I dropped, the meat, but I'm picking up on the carbs. So it was an up and down battle. I had been vegan for 2 years before and then went back into being a vegetarian. But I will say, when you stop eating the things that you are used to eating, you get to know your body. And that is the most important thing that I discovered. So I went from being a vegetarian to juicing to being a vegan. When you juice, I'll say this, when you juice, you realize what your body likes and dislikes. You discover how you feel when you eat certain things and how you feel when you eat other things. It was just I got really in touch with my body. I know what will, TMI, but I know what will give me gas. I know what will bloat me. I know what makes me feel heavy. There's certain things that I know I should not eat. Now, when you're eating 3 meals a day and 2 snacks, you don't give your body enough time. Like, you don't give your digestive system enough time to process all of the things that you're eating. So say you have an allergy to something, you'll never be able to figure out what you're allergic to unless you are in tune with your body. And I actually went through that process. I went through the process of figuring out certain foods that I was allergic to by being a vegan and juicing. And I was able to eliminate them. But when you're constantly eating, you don't have that opportunity because you're putting food on top of food on top of food. So by the end of the night, you're unaware of what is affecting you.
Yeah. I know what you're saying about, what is it that makes you sick when you're constantly eating, your body doesn't have time to rest. That's one of the reasons why I intermittent fast, because I want my body to be able to have that time to rest. I want my hormones to work the way they're supposed to work. I don't want them to get confused. And I try not to eat a lot of processed foods that are, processed foods, most of come in, boxes and cans and things like that. It's kind of hard to completely eliminate processed foods, but you got to look at, your labels. You have to be really diligent. You have to be aware of what you're putting in your body as well as the signals it's giving you. And I like that you were talking about the juicing and eating clean. How would someone begin that transition of saying, okay, you know what, this sounds good, Ereena. I think I need to make some changes in my eating habits. Where do I start? Because personally, I think that if you try to do everything at once, you're going to fail.
Absolutely. Although I did it. So I'm kind of an extremist. So either I'm in or I'm out. And the first time I juiced was in 2014. And the reason why I juice is because I wanted to really get a grip on my health. I had been suffering from a UTI that I didn't even know I had. I had no signs of having a UTI except for in the evenings I would get a fever. So I would go to work and I would be really hot. I would get a fever and I did not know why. But I got a really bad UTI and the doctor forced me to take antibiotics. And his words were, if you don't take the antibiotics, it's just going to get worse. And, when I was really young, I had a really bad UTI. So I know what that experience could be. So I took the antibiotics. And then that was about December or November 2013. And then my major goal was I need to get these antibiotics out of my system and I really need to get a grip on what's going on with me and my health. So January 2014, I embarked with my husband on a 60-day juice journey. 60 days, first time, never juiced before in my life. And we did it for 60 days. But in those 60 days, it completely changed who I was as a person. It completely changed how I looked at food. I dropped about 35 to 40 pounds in those 60 days. I was a completely different person. My energy was super high. I was able to be in the gym for 2 hours a day. I mean, my recovery after the gym was like non-existent. I wasn't tired, but that's me. Now, do I recommend someone who's coming in from eating meat to go straight into a 60-day juice? Absolutely not. Now, at the time, remember, I was a vegetarian, so it was easier for me to transition over because I already was out of the realm of eating meat and the things, dairy and stuff like that. So for what I say to people and how I work people into juicing is I do it step by step. So it's 20 days. 4 days out of those 20 days, you would eat clean. So 2 days you're eating clean. Third day you're on smoothies. 14 days you juice. Day after you juice, you go back into smoothies. And then final 2 days you go to clean eating. And the reason why I do it that way, it's kind of like a half moon. And I do it that way because I want the person to recognize how their body feels and acts at every level. So I want you to see the changes that your body does in just 2 days of eating clean. So at the beginning, I have you eat clean for 2 days. No chicken, no turkey, no beef, no red meat, no dairy, nothing. Nothing from an animal. Eating. Then after those 2 days, I have you do smoothies. So you're doing smoothies. You can buy smoothies wherever you would like. It can't have any dairy in it. It can't have any yogurt in it. It has to be a fruit smoothie, and it has to fill you out throughout the day. But in the middle of all of that, I have you drink half your body weight in water. Water is extremely important. You have to drink half of your body weight in water every single day. Another thing that I do is I have people drink herbal tea. Many people do not drink tea. Tea is good for you. Tea tricks your brain into thinking that you are eating something warm. You know, when you eat soup, when you have soup and soup fills you up, soup is liquid. But because it's a warm liquid, it tricks your brain into thinking that you are sitting there eating a complete meal, and tea will keep you full for some time. So I gradually bring you into it. And then you have 14 days where it's just juice. By that day that you go into your juice, you are mentally prepared. Your body has already understood that there is something going on different here with your eating habit. So it's ready for whatever it is that you're going to bring into it. So I slowly bring you in. Then you have your 14-day juice, and then I slowly bring you out. And what I do is the opposite. So once you come out of your juice, you go into your smoothies, and then you go out with the clean eating.
Okay, so that is Ereena's 3-week clean eating juicing program. And how can people take part in that?
They can reach out to me at momific21@gmail.com, and I will spell that for you. That is MOMIFIC21@gmail.com. Right now, you can schedule a free 20-minute discovery session with me. We can talk about your health concerns. We can also talk about any goals that you have in reference to your health or weight loss. Or I know a lot of people want to come off medication, so you can schedule a free 20-minute session with me where we can go over the goals that you have for your health.
Amazing. That is so great. We just scratched the surface in 20 minutes. So I advise you, if this is you, if you feel like, somebody was really tapping on your last nerve right here and you need to contact Ereena, you do that at momific21@gmail.com, and I'll link to that as well in the show notes for this episode. Ereena, is there any last words you have for our listeners before we go?
Absolutely. Drink water. Eat apples. Apples are full of fiber. They help you move out waste. And always put your health first. Without your health, you cannot do anything. You cannot work. You cannot take care of your family. You cannot live your life. You cannot be happy. Health is indeed wealth, and we all need it. So definitely take care of your health first.
Thank you for listening and for kicking it with me. If you enjoyed this show, please subscribe and tell your friends about it. Kicking It with Daree is brought to you by DAREE. That stands for Delivering a Rich, Empowering Experience. Visit me online and join my email list at dareeallen.com.